Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're going to be going over the next quarter that Xbox just had, and kind of an overview for the year. And some of it isn't great, some of it's good, some of it too is frustrating with some of the projects that they canceled, because it looks like they are definitely kind of swimming in cash, but they were some of the worst projects, I guess, that they had, some of the big ones. And they were still going to take some time to actually put out, like Perfect Dark and Project Blackbird. We've also had some layoffs too, again, which we're looking at. Here, let's actually take a look. Actually, yeah, it's right there. Layoff tracker. This is great if you ever want to keep up with it. Yeah, Supermassive, 1047, Sandsoft, Mad Apper. Like, yeah, there's still layoffs that are happening. We just don't really talk about them. So, yeah, when we actually take time to add up all of these, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 450-ish, 5. We still don't have stuff for everything. But yeah, we're probably looking at 6 or 700 layoffs total out of the 9,000 that they had. So yeah, we were kind of guessing somewhere maybe around 1,000 when everything was said and done. We know Romero Games was also affected, but they're working with other partnerships right now for publishing. But still, with like all of the numbers that we're going to go over, it's still frustrating that they did have a lot of these layoffs. But again, they're just another publisher, of course, focusing on just what sells and not really trying to innovate too much. And yeah, hopefully we can get some innovation back. Double A and Indie really seems to be doing that. But anyway, Xbox delivers $23 billion in annual revenue, which is pretty freaking insane. That's almost a $2 billion increase from the previous year. And a lot of it was content and services and Game Pass. And then, too, especially Activision. They also hit 50 million players for Black Ops 6. Can you believe that? Even with all the negative press out there, 50 million players on Black Ops now that have at least started and booted up the game. That's pretty insane. Yeah, that's 50 million different accounts, not just on Xbox, but just across everything, including PlayStation, mobile, and PC and Xbox. So that's pretty nuts. But yeah, they had $23 billion, which was 16% increase of Xbox content and services, including Game Pass, and then despite also a 25% hardware revenue decline. Microsoft plans the next-gen console, Xbox consoles for Windows 11. Now, yeah, we're going to dig some more into this, of course. And but yeah, Xbox is somewhat catching up to PlayStation, and we talked about this um, multiple months back, maybe even about a year back. First big video that I did was probably about 9 months ago, talking about Game Pass being everywhere and Xbox trying to get into everything, and now we're certainly seeing that. And yeah, Sony roughly made almost $30 billion last fiscal year. And yeah, Xbox is continuing to like kind of narrow that gap. So they're roughly at 23.5 billion. And this is just wild. It's again the most money that they've ever made. And yeah, 95% of their annual Xbox revenue was software and services, not just selling on Xbox, but everywhere else as well. And even with the decline in actual revenue, these are still really impressive numbers. Now, when we take a look at the year over year, we kind of see these in threes, the stagnation, 15 through 17, 18 through 20, 21 through 23, which they were looking at actually shutting Xbox down somewhere in here, or at least mulling it over. But I think Spencer saved it, and this is when they really changed their business model. Was kind of somewhere back in here. It's like, yeah, let's see if it works. But yeah, this was the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King. And what a massive jump there. I mean, we're looking at like $6 billion in revenue, and it just really shows that putting your games everywhere and trying to be on all of the devices that you can really does pay off, even though your hardware sales are going down. And this is why PlayStation 2, with their last quarter, they're no longer focusing on console sales. They're focusing on monthly active users, just like Xbox is. So yeah, PlayStation is planning on going multi-platform to their own degree. They're just doing it slower, which again, channels have been saying for a while, but some people still aren't believing that out there. And then, yeah, we see this $2 billion growth in revenue, roughly, 9-10% somewhere in there. And that's pretty insane, the growth on that. And yeah, the other thing too that's really interesting is is that Microsoft has plans for next generation hardware, but reports indicate that new Xbox consoles may in fact be basically Windows 11 PCs, which we already knew that, operating with a Xbox OS pretty much. Kind of this melding of PC and console together, which I think a lot of us are actually excited for. And reports also suggest that Microsoft may not be the only one actually making these PCs. So they'd be looking at original equipment manufacturers like Asus, Lenovo, and MSI. I would probably buy one, honestly, from MSI or Asus. But yeah, looking at making these Xbox systems, so like third-party Xboxes. And then, too, we're also hearing that Xbox is also planning on even making their own after the fact. So if you maybe I'll do a video on this later when we get a little bit more information. But yeah, these OEMs they're looking at coming in maybe 2026, probably for the holiday, and then Xbox's new system is looking at 27, and this correlates with the PlayStation 6 as well. So yeah, this is really really fascinating, honestly. But yeah, they've made a ton of money, even though their consoles aren't selling. And let's take a look. They did have that price hike. Don't forget that. Basically made them go up 20%, which was retarded. It's like, yeah, this is older hardware. And it's like, well, yeah, we're just going to raise prices. But this is January 2025. And these are the numbers I want you to focus on here, just for you to see how far they drop. So that's February, March, April. May was the price change. Look at that. Look at that drop. And again, it basically stays there. So yeah, for a lot of these, they were pretty much cut in half with just that 20% price increase. Now the reason I bring this up too is partly just Nintendo raised their price for the Switch Ones. So they first did this in Canada, and which I want to say was in June, and now we're getting it in July for pretty much the rest of the world. And again, these are like $50 increases for the Switch One and the Switch One OLED. And my concern is that they're just buttering us up and just getting us used to the idea with these quote market conditions, which is tariffs basically and inflation, is that they're going to do this, of course, to also the Switch 2 as well. And then how much is the Switch 2 OLED going to cost? Are we looking at $500? Are we looking at $550? I mean, how much are we willing to pay for this? Because regardless of what the Switch 2 is and how well it plays games now, if we're getting PlayStation 6 and the next-gen Xbox stuff in 2027, that's just a couple of years away. And we're going to start talking about this next year. So, like, the Switch 2 is, in my opinion, is going to kind of move to the background, and and Sony and Microsoft are going to take the forefront. Something else I want to share is like why Xbox is making so much money, and it's because people are just excited about their games. So this is PlayStation, physical and full digital, and this was the top-selling games, from April to beginning of July. And yeah, we see Forza Horizon 5, Elder Scrolls, Oblivion Remaster, Doom the Dark Ages, Indiana Jones the Great Circle, and Minecraft. Still Minecraft, which is just crazy. And again, that's where some of that revenue is coming from. Again, every single microtransaction that they sell or every game that they sell, Microsoft gets 70% of that. And PlayStation is making money too. There's more games coming to their ecosystem, and they're making 30% on all of that stuff that they sell on their store. So they're happy as well. If we take a look at Xbox, again, it's even though Game Pass has, 34 million subscribers, we don't know exact breakdown, but yeah, probably roughly half have some form of Game Pass, give or take. But yeah, again, Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Online, Minecraft, and then Black Ops 6. So again, even Microsoft is enjoying Microsoft sales too on their own platform, again, for the same time period. And then, of course, why not? Nintendo is Nintendo. No surprise there. And then, too, we're finding out, too, with the earnings call that Game Pass almost, it's really, really close, $5 billion annually for the first time. And this is with, again, the continued decline with Xbox and the hardware. And that makes a little bit more sense because, again, they raised the price like that. $600 now for an Xbox console. But what's crazy is, regardless of whether I'm going to Target, Fred Meyer, or Walmart in my town, the Xboxes are sold out all the time. It's really hard to get one. And as soon as they come in, pretty much within the next week, they're all gone. And then the shelves just sit empty for a while until they can get new inventory in. So I don't know if Xbox is really scaling back a ton of hardware on the hardware side and just not making as many because they're ramping up for the next gen stuff. Maybe that's part of it. But again, this is even with the price increase of 20%. So, like, they're still selling. And again, the biggest pull that they have is their software and services. And just the amount of money that they're making is crazy. And again, I don't see this really slowing down because regardless of where you're playing, you're already established, right? For most of us. If you're in your 30s or you're in your 40s, you're pretty much established. You have your friends there, you have your digital libraries there. You're probably going to stay there, and that's perfectly okay. Play where you want to play. That's not my problem. My problem is that when some people keep saying that Xbox is dead, and we keep seeing this, and we keep seeing more growth, we keep seeing more revenue coming in, we keep seeing Xbox now being the top publisher on PlayStation, and again, we can say whatever the goalposts are, whatever the excuses are, but reality is what it is, folks. Xbox is not going anywhere, and what I think is great is that PlayStation is starting to shift to the third party, to putting their games everywhere. We're getting Helldivers. They sold the rights to MLB The Show. They also sold the rights to Death Stranding. So yeah, Death Stranding 2 sold roughly 1.4 million sales at launch with almost 80 million PlayStation 5 consoles, which is kind of insane. I thought it would honestly sell more than that. They're expecting 3 million in sales at the end of the year on PlayStation, but we'll see how many actually sell on Xbox. Maybe another million? I don't know. I definitely want to pick it up, but I know that Death Stranding 2 is coming because, again, they sold the rights to Kojima Productions. And then PlayStation is also allowing others to make their games with some of their other IPs like Hot Shots Golf and Patapon over on Nintendo. They're also doing day and date for some stuff like Lego Horizons. And of course, they're putting pretty much everything on PC. So, like, no matter how you see it, the console is not the focus anymore. Really, it's not. They're not focusing on the console, whether it's PlayStation or it's Xbox. They're focusing on expanding everything. Well, if your console's your barrier, you're going to move past your barrier, right? And that's exactly what these companies are doing. Basically, Xbox did it first, and they're continuing, and now PlayStation is going to do it. And I wonder, too, if Nintendo is eventually going to get there, too. So what are your guys' thoughts? I think ultimately the future is just better accessibility, and that's what the younger generations care about. They don't care about the box. They care about what's available and how much it costs. And the thing, too, that I'm excited is Xbox made, I think, a really smart move by ensuring that, when they've said that, I should have pulled this up. I didn't think about it until now. But until Outer Worlds 2 was going to be $80, there's enough pushback, pretty much in pre-orders probably, where they're like, oh, wow, people aren't grabbing that. That's not good. And so not only is Outer Worlds 2 just going to be $70, which, sounds like a deal, but it's not, because no game is, in my opinion, is really worth $70, except for maybe Elden Ring and a few others. But yeah, Outer Worlds 2 is going to be $70, but so is every other game through holiday of 2025, including Black Ops 7. So again, I think that's great. We do have a voice, folks. We do have, a voice with our wallets, and we should remember that. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see how this generation turns out, especially if we're going to allow third parties to start making Xboxes, because now there's going to be some competition there. And then I think the best and biggest ones will actually be made by Microsoft themselves, and they'll come out like a year later or something. And then, yeah, even this year, we have the handheld. So I personally am not too excited about that, and I'm not excited either for like $900 for a handheld. We were pretty close. But yeah, either way you shake it, Xbox isn't going anywhere. It's here to stay, and it's changed the industry drastically. And these companies, they like making money. It's not about their fan base. It's not about what their fans are saying. It's what their fans are doing. And what's happening is that everybody is pretty much going third party. So, yeah, and I think that's good. That's good competition. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one.